right, good morning. How are you today?
I am well.
Good, good. It's good to hear. All right. Choose a norm that you would like to champion today.
Disrupt perfectionism. It is enough to be good enough.
Why did you choose that?
I would like to choose that because of two sides of it, personal and professional. Personal being in my culture, it's very much, you have about 5 points of leeway, you have to hold this certain standard, and I didn't want to pass that to my students or to my own children. And then for the students, is a lot of it was they needed to see the positivity that they already had. Simple things as, look at this, you capitalized this sentence and you used a period. Now let's work on this, and just starting off with that positivity, and not for them to be perfect, but to tell them you did this, and giving them those kudos has really brought them to the next level.
Good. I like that. Because when we used to say last year, work in an Oreo kind of mentality, start with something positive, address the stuffing in the middle, the stuff in the middle that may not be as sweet, and then close it up just to make sure everybody's got that warm covering. So I like that. Share a celebration. You don't have to get in detail. Just give me one highlighted celebration that you choose to lift up, and then once you go into your data presentation, you can expound.
I would like to lift up that there has been growth in some students. Some students made like a 10-point growth from fall benchmark to spring benchmark.
Okay, and that is amazing. You have really taken these kids this year to a whole different level. You've stretched them. You've really made them to think intrinsically and extrinsically, and just really made them grow to a whole new level. You are by far uh, prepared these students. You've laid a great foundation for them to go to fifth grade and build upon. And this is what learning and education is. It's like working at General Motors. You've heard me say that so many times. You put your part on, and make sure your part is well, established. So when the next person comes put their layer on, they are ready to proceed. So at the end, in 18 years or 17 years, when they're seniors and they crank up that car and roll it off the educational assembly line, it is a well safe car to function and be safe out here in this world. And you do a great job to that. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
You have sustained number one in the district through the whole year, and that is not an easy task. Because as other students grow, it is very important that you understand that you could get knocked off your pedestal, as we say, in a heartbeat. I'm sorry, I'm putting my phone on do not disturb because I don't want it to disrupt the recording. Make sure that we're still good. Yes, I had to put it back on do not disturb so it won't mess up our recording. I am so sorry. All right. Any questions you have about the calendar tomorrow? It was brought to my attention that I will not be taking any teachers to Battle of the Books tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't know what that's going to look like with if I'm taking all 15 kids myself, or somebody's going to go with me or not. I'm not sure. I have no details. All I was told that no teachers will be going with me tomorrow.
Okay.
So we can maximize instruction. I do have the shirts over there in the box. I will pass them out to you this evening.
Okay.
And then we'll give them to them in the morning when they get here. So nobody takes it home, spills applesauce or anything on it, and then we don't have a clean shirt tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm buying pizza, cheese and pepperoni pizza. So if any student has a dietary restriction, they need to bring a lunch.
Okay.
Okay?
Another I'm just writing it down so I can reach out to those specific parents and let them know that ahead of time. Oh, you said pizza. So I already put in that time for tomorrow. Do you want me to take that time out?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other side of it is parents. Are parents allowed to attend?
No, they're not, because of the small area that we have. And so that's why we were only limited to take 2 teachers. It didn't matter before because Coker never wants to go. She just, go be great. And so you and Paula were gonna go. So you were my 2 teachers that were going to go. So I have a link that I will share with you guys, and it may be in the email that I've already shared, but I will make sure that you have a link to share with parents. So there's that. So we're now at the data-driven portion. I think you shared your presentation with me.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was just asking because if I couldn't go as a teacher, then I would like to go as a parent, just because. But I do understand, and I will make a note to pull my absence from Frontline.
Thank you. It says I don't have permission to go to Canva.
It says that I gave permission. Let's see. Share. Yep. It says share for those with my link. Try that again.
Say when.
I'm just sending you the same link again, and hopefully it will.
You checked in Canva to make sure that permission is granted?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Okay. You said you sent me another. Okay.
Yes.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right. Let me go to presentation.
Yes. Okay, so this is from Unit 6, and the reason why we're starting with Unit 6 is because it's always upward motility, and this is where we started with the students first. So because we were first place, again, we were looking at the numbers of where are we at approaches, where are we at meets, where are we at masters, and breaking that down to them and having that ownership in their scores. And I broke it down to them as dollars. So dollars were, we have this $100 that we are going to spend, and of this $100, we want this money to stretch and make money. How we make this money stretch and make money is in the meets and masters. The approaches category is I'm just covering my bills, and there might be a little bit, that went to trash, not leftover, went to trash of other expenses, and that would be similar to I didn't expect to pay for 2 sodas. They charged me extra. I didn't pay attention to it until after I paid for it, and that is in our does not meet category. But for $80 of our bill, we paid that. We paid it in full. But $53 made money. And of that money that made money was 26%, or $26 in this case, is what we gained back in return. If this was a casino or different things like that. So it's very great for the students to see that we're making money. We're making dollars this way. And it really helps them own it. And the opposite was when we did poorly on something, and I would have the same thing as, of this $100, we paid our bills and we cleared it, but look at how much money we wasted. Look at how much money didn't, go towards the bill. Look at how much money isn't making any dollars. Let's own that. So it really has changed the way that they thought or think about their scores.
These scores are amazing. I want to also lift up that so much of your personality comes through your teaching, comes through your everything is so very intentional that you do. This slide is so you, with the bees and the flowers, the confetti, the light bulb. You're always trying to find a new way to stretch your kids. You don't label your kids, you don't limit your kids. You really expect so much for them. And this graphic just truly speaks to it. You have so much in place for your students?
So this is for spring benchmark, which is tentative. This is for the 61 students, and then we have our 2 last students now taking the test. And from the spring benchmark so far, the numbers aren't quite drastically different from where it was in Unit 6. Unit 6 that just took place weeks ago. So we're still in that 80-81% for approaches that meets category and that masters. The masters category for Unit 6 was higher, but I am confident that once we have those other 2 students achieve and hit into that master's category as well, it will also improve. But the numbers are very close, so the students didn't lack effort or didn't step back from that effort, but they did actually lean in and push in. And they maintained at least where we could see it on our percentage.
What do you attribute your stamina? There's, I hear a lot of class grade levels, they're speaking to the kids are lacking stamina. Your kids are able to transition with the stamina of this meaty test. What have you done to ensure that they are able to sustain doing this?
We went through organized scratch paper 3 separate times prior to this test, and the organized scratch paper each time was a complete we-do. We started from the beginning for fear factors, where it was a paired passage with an ECR. And going through there, we saw that out of the 8 questions that were there, we answered 6 of the questions prior to completing reading. So if it already told us to look in section 1 or look in this specific paragraph, look in this specific area, we stopped there and answered that question right then and there. And we knew that because we already had our organized scratch paper, we already had our roadmap. Even though it would have been the 3rd or 4th question on the list, on our roadmap it told us that the closest thing, on our right, that McDonald's is coming up. Go ahead and stop at that McDonald's. You know that you're gonna have to stop there anyways. And so they're eliminating 6 out of 8 questions. And while they're eliminating the 6 out of 8 questions, they have their ECR question written down. So they're taking notes on their ECR question while they're answering their questions. And they also know that tidbit. A part of my questions is answering my ECR. So all of those things are tying into one, but it is intentional of actually walking them through step by step. Look at it from my perspective. I'm annotating for them. They are required to write it as well. For my students that have special, dyslexia, dysgraphia, things like that, I've already made them their organized scratch paper. And they're following along on their packet where they're annotating only on their packet, but their organized scratch paper was made for them. And then we're going in and we're answering the question directly, right then and there. If the question said it was in paragraph 1, I asked them the probing questions. So if this is paragraph 1, do I need to keep reading paragraph 2 and paragraph 3? No. Why not? Well, because it says paragraph 1. I was like, okay, don't make it complicated. It's only asking you to look at paragraph 1. However, if we continued reading and read the entire passage, these other answer choices are from the other paragraphs.
Absolutely.
This is where we are getting stumped up. Listen to what it is asking you. However, if you continued and you read the entire passage and then went back to your organized scratch paper, you would have, unfortunately, had that misconception and done this. So that was one of the things. And then for their ECR, it was that live going in there and correcting while they were writing it. Not letting them complete it and then they're already set, they're in their mind, they did it correctly. It was that in the moment, while they're live on their document, I'm in there like, hey, don't erase this, build better, but you're not introducing where you're getting your text evidence from. You're just copy pasting, this is my text evidence.
Right.
You need to tell me where it's at. You didn't even answer the question.
So being very intentional
Just
in every step, so it prevented the fatigue and the burnout of testing.
because they answered most of their questions as they read, instead of having to read the passage, read the question, go back and read the passage again, then read the question, and then go back and read the passage
That
again.
backtracking.
And that back and forth is where they get the most of their fatigue.
I like that.
So this is looking at our Unit 6 again, where it was first, but this is a breakdown for what we did versus what the district did, where you see that there's a 10% gap between the district and what we did. We were 10% above them, And even in our masters, we had a 27%, which beat the district's 19%. On a smaller scale of 60 students testing, it's still something that they were able to see and able to accept, that it's not just numbers that I'm giving to them like, oh, you did a good job, you did a good job. It was, we did a good job, and this is how well we did. So far for the spring benchmark, as I'm still waiting for students to complete it, we are toggling between third, second, and first place, which is still not terrible, but you know, we always want to do better, and it's also for letting them see where we are versus the district. It is 48% on the district while we're at 53. We're still doing better than the district average, but not by as much as previously, and that's where the questions come in, like, where were we struggling? What were the things that we needed to do? We need to dig in and lean into what was hard and what can we like fix.
Yeah, I think the majority of the makeups are almost done.
Yes,
And
my
I
last two are today.
And yeah, but I'm talking about like in the district too.
Okay.
So, they both were showed up today.
Yes,
They're
both
still
did.
testing.
One is still testing. The other one was completed early, and he got a meets before grading anything.
Okay.
He already got a meets.
So once these last two, let's go back in, and then after you score, I will let Haley Pennington know that we're through with makeups, because I think yours were the last two.
Yes,
Two.
he right now is on question 29, so
Mhm.
he's already done with the bulk of the front half.
Mm-hmm.
And the other student, yet again, he was already completed before specials, and he was already in that meets category without grading anything.
And see, his stamina was great, because that's where they all should really be.
At this moment in time,
Yes, they should all really be there by 11 o'clock. I mean, if they just go in and attack it and take it for what it is.
And these are the students that, in the very beginning for our spring benchmark and all those things, they dropped really low, and they said all the excuses like, oh, it was because of this, that, and the other. And this time I said, I don't have any excuses. I don't have any, because I've walked you through 3 different packets of organized scratch paper, answering the question, and then that M in the FAM method, making it make sense. I gave you the direct text evidence and the words in the text that supported this answer. So you saw every single part of that thought come out. And so I'm confident on these 2 specific students.
Okay.
So here it's all of the teaks that they said were in there. It's not for the specific questions, but it's the specific teaks. So if you can click to the next slide really quickly. The ones that are circled are the ones that I would like to lean in for. We already knew that we were looking at 4.9 DI as one of our teaks that we were heavily focused on. I was surprised by the 4.3A, for sure. I was surprised that was a struggle teak area for us, that 4.3A. And then, let me see, I have my School City open right now. The 4.3A was a multiple choice question that was, it says use print or digital resources to determine meaning, syllabication, or pronunciation. It's a supporting standard, and for it to be as done as poorly as it was, it really brought back to, this is where previously we didn't have these issues, and that was when I was doing word study more frequently. But once I have to combine lessons, I did cut word study out, and I see that here, and it was kind of upsetting. On the 4.6E, on the making connections one, that 27%, I specifically put those 2 questions in our slide so we can look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But the highlight is that 4.8C. Remember, that was one of our teaks that we had to look at. That was one of those things that you said, you know, every grade level we need to look at it.
Yeah.
Same with the 4.11 DII and DV. Those were the 2 that we needed to look at as well. So those were the ones that we did look at, and I wanted to highlight at their success for us leaning into those specific teaks. That 84% on that 4.8C, we were asking them to do that, we're asking them to do it, and they showed out. And so, super proud of them for that. That 4.8C is the analyze plot elements, including rising, climax, falling action, and resolution. And we were We leaned into that very hard. That was for the
Mm-hmm.
that was for the short constructed response. 84%. So leaning into that, doing that text structure, and really taking the time to lean into it, and that was one of those highlighted teaks that you put on there, and it showed. It definitely showed.
What are we gonna do about that? How do we drop so much in that central idea though?
Central idea.
4.9 DI.
4.9 DI. I'm trying to find the question.
We need to look at that. Yeah.
Yes, that question in particular is question 19.
Tell them how proud I am of them with that 4.8C.
4.8C, absolutely. So
They really rocked that.
question 19.
And you did say that you've already got measures in place for that 4.6E.
That 4.6E I included in the slide so we can actually break it down together, because there's a part of it where it's not really what we would normally be teaching them for. It's not what we would normally be teaching them for 4.6E. So the question itself is a little bit more complex, and I don't feel like it's in the appropriate category for 4.6E. So the question for 19, where they dropped, it says, what is the central idea of tradition with a twist? And tradition with a twist is new versions of traditional dishes should be valued. The other options where traditional food is different from countries is important. Helping people keep traditions in your community feels good. Traditions can teach people how to be successful when they cook. So a lot of that was technically true. It was just, this was something that they really had to sit there and ruminate on. So this is question 22 that you're looking at right now. When you go to the next slide, question 22 is a 4.6E question. It is the two questions that they said was 4.6E. So on here, the question is, how is Chef Enrique in the article similar to the chefs in the selection? They don't see that it is a text-to-text connection, but they're also seeing it as a compare and contrast. So their compare and contrast took over, how is this similar? So on this question, 22, 24.2% success, and a lot of students chose B. They believe strongly that chefs must have more training in the food history. B is what they chose. There's no mention in either article that they need more training, but they did talk about the chefs in both articles using different types of techniques. And that's where that technicality comes in, where they were more on compare and contrast, or in this case compare, then they were looking at a text-to-text connection. So this is where this question is complex in what it was asking, and also the text was harder to understand if they didn't have that background of cooking in the first place, or had they been there.
Okay.
All right, so this is question 23. Question 23, a majority of the students, it was actually pretty much 20-something% overall, with the majority being B. Again, on this one, it says, what is a belief that people have about using traditional recipes in the selection tradition with a twist that is not described in the article? So yet again, it is making connections, but it's also an inference using evidence support. It's also comparing and contrasting across a variety of sources. So this is a meaty one. It's not just a single question. This is more of that toggle.
Yeah.
It's a huge question. So that
and is, this, remember what they said in Region 11, this type of question is more for your mastery, those high meets, high mastery. And so we need to make sure that when we look at this going forward with intention, that we're looking at capturing all of those students and maybe doing more of this so they can have that more exposure to it.
So yet again, I'm waiting for every single one of my students to be done testing, because this is one of those things that I do want to go over. I want them to see this, because even today, talking to Jamari, and his score was a 25 overall. on the spring benchmark does not meet, and it was mainly attributed to, besides his, you know, lack of focus, his short constructed responses and his ECR was very poor. And I pointed out to him, and I orally asked him, what was the main problem in the story, and he told it to me. Why is this not translating the paper? So even then, it's like, so he has it, there's just a disconnect, and so
You have
I
to build
really-
his confidence up.
I
with
want to, like,
Yeah.
I want to go through this in class, but I had to wait for those students to be back and for everyone to be completed. And so in
Are you
here,
gonna pull, you know, groups to the small group table to work with them on things like this?
I'm conferencing them with them right now while they're in Sirius.
Okay.
So while the kids are in Sirius, and instead of like doing an intervention, I'm pulling them towards the table and I'm talking to them about their spring benchmark, and I'm showing them their SCR, their ECR, and how their original score was affected by this.
Okay.
And it really did open up a lot of people's eyes. Like Michael Boise,
Mm-hmm.
showing that to him, he was beaming.
Wow.
He was smiling with all of his teeth. Like, that's major. So on this
I'm
question,
so proud of him. Mhm.
a lot of students chose B. Some people think traditional recipes should be used in expensive restaurants. That was taking place in Tradition with a Twist. When the Beninese person was changing it to meet a Japanese style fusion, this, that, and the other. But that is just directly plain with no emphasis on anything. So some people feel upset when traditional recipes are changed, which is true. There was a line in there when it says, why would you touch tradition? But it was one line
Okay.
compared to the rest of it. So it's not something that they necessarily didn't understand. It was just such a complex question. Because they know how to make personal connections. They do it all the time.
They do.
It's just, this was not just a personal connection question.
Yeah, these toggle questions require them to stretch.
Yes.
So now you know where your big push
Yes.
will come from going forward.
Yes. Okay, so here, this is my average versus the district. On the constructed response is the short constructed response, not the writing prompt. The short constructed response, this is where you see that 77%. This is your 4.8C. So not only was it that analyzing plot elements, it was also a writing prompt, and that's how well I did, especially compared to the district. I mentioned to you yesterday with hot text, when we were going over it in Sirius while I'm walking them through their introduction, we went through hot text. I made sure that that was a part of the focus that we had, because it was not making sense to me why they did so poorly, not because I don't think they understood the question. I don't think some of the students were paying attention to the concept once they reached it anymore. And when we're doing it as a whole class, they understood it. It's a part of the highlighted, but here's the part that they pointed out. When they say sentences and choose two, that is where they were just like, oh, I'm only aware that hot text is one. So we went through it, and that is where they're just like, oh, okay.
I know, and they kick themselves like, God.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's what I go back to, leaving points on the table. When they don't take the time to read the question, they assume they read part of it and like, oh, we do hot text, that's one sentence. But then you got
They're
that.
not reading it all the way.
Yep.
And that was something that we did look at yesterday while we were going through the Sirius training.
Okay. Anything else?
Next page. So this is for their questions. We looked at 22 and 23. That is the percentage that we have on 22 and 23. Both of them were neck and neck. They were difficult, very difficult questions. This is what it's looking at their question completeness and their question things. 25, you see a 3%, but that is not accurate to the points. That is just, there's only 3% of the students so far that got all the points for the writing prompt.
Gotcha. Yeah,
But-
that's the ECR, right?
Yes, that's the ECR. But otherwise, overall, I do see a lot of green areas.
Talk to me through your zeros. Did you process how many zeros you had this time versus last time?
For the ECR,
Yes.
I didn't, just because I was still straggling and grading some of those latecomers, because in the beginning, I shared with you, we only had 11 does not meet. And then as students came in and they were testing after the fact, I gained like 3 zeros. or like 3 does not meet. And I really didn't know if it was environment, I didn't know if it was technique, or if it was just skill based.
Okay.
That was the main
That's
thing.
gonna have to be a conference that you have to do with them,
Yes.
independently, because that's why it's so important that students come to school and test with their peers
Yes.
and their teacher. Even if they are in a small group on the actual day of testing, they know that you're not too far away. You have laid that expectation for them.
Yes.
So when they do go to their small group, you've already threatened them with their life.
Well, even today for my students who are testing, I let them know before they stepped in to take the test. I told Ms. Sapienza to tell them, I am gonna have Go Guardian on all day until y'all are done with that test.
Mm-hmm.
Don't click on absolutely anything else. Know that I'm paying attention and I'm expecting you to use your resources. And I can zoom in and pull this up for you right now. Look at him. He's going through with the strike through feature like we do on the spoon method, that process of elimination, and truly eliminating what isn't there. He's going in and highlighting certain words that help him say, yes, this is where this answer is coming from. So I told them, I'm going to be watching you. This is going to happen. And
that accountability is very necessary.
yes.
Even if it's from the lens, a positive lens of comfort.
Yes.
She's watching me. She sees me. I'm doing it.
This
I know she's
specific
proud of
student,
me.
this
Yeah.
specific student did not want to miss and wanted to be here. However, other things.
That was the one with the death in the family?
Well, 2. There's 2 deaths in the family.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Very well prepared, data-driven discussion. This was very intentional on your planning, your preparedness, and just how it just resonated how much you're invested in your students. And the results show. I mean, even though, 3rd grade laid a foundation, there is no way that they will be excelling like this without you. So I am very proud of you. Next week, let's pull in Ms. Pollard brought hers, the clips of and snips of the work samples. We're going to delve more into that next week. One thing that I would like, we've already discussed this, is that you redact the students' names, give the students the rubric, and have them score their peers against the rubric and talk about how we can upgrade and things like that. I know every day is intentional, but your kids can do this. Your kids are very meticulous like you, and they comb through everything. I think, remember last year when I went to Lead Forward, and they were saying that last week don't have students write ECRs, have them score just to kind of fine tune their understanding. I think that would be beneficial now. Have them score. Are you crying?
No.
Oh, your eyes look a little wet.
No, I just scratched my face.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm sorry. What did I do? I think your kids would really benefit from that because they are mature enough to do this, and they will benefit from it.
So we did start doing that
Mm-hmm.
in more of a teacher-led way. Just yet again, they need practice before they jump into it. So in a teacher-led way, for Unit 6, the ECR specifically, I read some out and I told them, what do you think this is scored on from a scale of 0 to 10? Not to 5, from 0 to 10. Because it's easier for them to understand in terms of tens, and then we multiply that. So I read, I read some 4s out. I read a 10 out. I read one that they scored 0. They're like 0, 0, 0, 0, and yet this person was scored 6. And I was like, well, why did you think that this was a 0? There's like, it was kind of all over the place. I was like, okay, but take it back. Did they answer it? Was there text evidence? And did they elaborate upon it? Now, there's other fundamental things here, like the convention side of it, but did they meet those 3 requirements? And they had to sit there and sit with it again. So this time I saw a majority of students make sure that it was that first sentence. I did not have to look for it. The claim was there. They answered the question. They restated it right there at the top. And then I knew that everything else underneath it was text evidence and or elaboration. So because I read it out to them already and I had them guess as a class, and they're like, no, 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 no. And it was more of like a battle between them. So this time, if it's on paper for them to do so, I feel like they would understand more because we already had that organic
It almost
discussion
turns it
about
into look like a debate,
yes.
like a Socratic seminar.
But we had to do it that way first, and then this way, I feel like we have that confidence level where we can go in and they can actually physically, tactically touch these papers and highlight and circle and do all those things and write down their ideas and their thoughts. It's just they had to have it modeled and spoken out loud in the beginning first.
So what I would like to see is next week, bring those snippets together, high, medium, and lows, like she has here.
Yes.
Did you help her put this together?
I told her that that's what I do because
Yeah.
that's how I read them out loud to my students.
Right.
Yeah.
And then bring some current work samples for like what you've done since Spring Benchmark that you're working on, so we can see maybe how you've instructed them to upgrade their writings. I know you may not see it all at one time, but maybe just say, hey, this is where the student was on Spring Benchmark, and this is where the student is today. I've seen an upgrade in the claim, or I've seen a stronger conclusion. Just something that we can articulate, hey, we've identified, we've got our plan, and this is what we're doing.
So even with that, that's where the Google Doc comes in, where they have all of their previous writing samples in that Google Doc, and so they can click every single tab and sub-tab, and they see in there like, man, I used to really write 3 sentences and think I was done. And then they have 2 paragraphs, and then now we're at that 4 paragraphs, and some of them are going to that 5 route. And that 5 was based off of the vocabulary, the writing process, power, plan, organize, write, edit, and revise, which then tied into the teach method, which is what I was already giving them. So
one thing that that's why when I was in the classroom, I really loved the composition notebook, and we used to have a table of contents at the beginning.
yes,
And so every article that they wrote, it had the date they wrote it and the page number it was on. And I'll go back and I'll say, go back to an article in October. Everybody look at your table of content. Do y'all want to look at this? Because we all were doing the same thing.
yes,
And I said, and then they would pick, oh, let's do this. I said, now, I want you to come look at your February. Or we would go all the way back to August 17th, September, October. It's like, I'm getting, just like you said, I'm becoming a better writer.
Yeah.
And so there's always room to expand. And even in school right now, I'm like, whew, I thought I was a great writer. This is stretching me. This is really stretching me. And it makes me think. And one thing that I have to be very transparent, she's like, avoid the repetition. It's so easy to want to, drive a particular point home, but as you grow as a writer, it's redundant or it's unnecessary to repeat. Take out some of the words because you're writing on as you said, consider your audience who you're writing to when
yes.
I was in there. Remember who you're writing to so you don't have to elaborate as
yes.
much.
Yes.
And that's one reason why I love coming to your class, and when they forget that I'm in there.
Yeah, they're just like, I'm locked in right now. You're here. Like, we're locked in. We only got this certain amount of time. I really don't want to do this for homework. It's in that moment, but it's just because they get high rewards, they know that their consequences are also high. I never have to use those consequences though, but they know it's there. And they've seen it utilized with the other, classes.
Speaking of consequences, yesterday I was supporting in another classroom, and we didn't matriculate through the lesson well. And so I said, I'm sorry, but we have to work through our recess, not as punishment, but we have to prioritize what is important here.
Yeah.
And so today, when I say night and day from yesterday, I was thinking it was going to take 3 or 4 days. I mean, they met my expectation when they walked in the classroom, they were seated, they were on point. When I said, let's move to serious, they were already knowing what to do, what my expectation was. And I was like, guys, we did this so quickly. And they were like, I said, you know what? You're going to finish in time. It's only 11:05. You're going gonna finish in time to go to recess. And they were like, oh. I said, and what's the key word? They said, earned it. If you remember to earn it, like at the end of Saving Private Ryan, earn it. I know that's two different levels, but anything that you earn in life, you should really do value it more. What I would like to get from you is thinking of your intervention and the tutoring. We're gonna add one day, Monday, to tutoring. I would like your input on what you would like me to work on Mondays and Thursdays in 4th grade. We have Miss Mitchell, and then we have the lady that's coming from Hargrave to come over and support in tutoring. So we're gonna start next Monday, and then I want you to look at those kids again based on their performance on Spring Benchmark, and let parents know that we're gonna upgrade to tutoring on Monday as well as Thursday for reading, and it is essential because we're trying to avoid Saturday schools. It is essential that they are here on Mondays and Thursdays, but I don't want to give them an out and say, if they can't, because some of them will be here Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
But let them know this is a 5-week sacrifice, and they will benefit more if they're here 2 days a week. But if they can only make it one, we want them here. Okay.
Okay, so the main thing is same conversation with the pull-out group was comprehension, because there was a lot of even baseline prior to grading their written work. There was a lot of multiple choice questions that were missed, and I don't think that they're having that feedback conversation to themselves. So there's a lot of that comprehension piece that's happening on just the multiple choice level for a lot of the students that are attending the tutoring part. And then with that comprehension piece increasing, their writing is also going to increase.
Yeah, so what we're doing thus far is I'm pulling older passages. I'm gonna use some of them, the questions, but the majority of them, I'm gonna rewrite questions based on these TEKs here for those passages, because a lot of the older passages had great graphic features. They had, relatable that students liked. And so, Here's My Dollar was a 3rd or 4th grade passage. And there's a 6th grade passage for 5th grade, Christmas Island, where the red crab invasion, the kids always love that. And so I'm gonna write grade level appropriate questions and then have an ECR, SER attached to it. Since we're now, soon as 3:45 hit, we're already back in the classroom and we're moving to get more time.
On my STAR Blitz plan, I pulled a lot of the STAR released passages and questions on here. So same sentiment. We're gonna end up hunkering down and doing those as well. And in my time, I'm able to have them have that peer work and walking through that organized scratch paper and having that comprehension piece at the end of making it make sense. However, what I'm not able to do is do it at a more intimate level, because there's just so many bodies in there at the same time. So it would be highly beneficial to do those same things that you're doing with that comprehension piece and the students and with those passages, because that's the part that I'm struggling with.
And we're gonna meet there in the middle. So yeah, definitely we got you covered, so you can take care of your needs on Mondays and Wednesdays in reading, and we're gonna make it very beneficial for your students. I chose 2 quotes as we wrap up. You can speak to both, or you can speak to one.
When there is no struggle, there is no strength.
Until why?
Because I'm seeing now for some of my students that are in that high class where there's not a lot of that grappling, that academic discussion, that struggle. The other students that aren't quite there yet, they're vastly falling behind. And that academic struggle is such a large piece, because you're hearing thoughts out loud and able to correct misconceptions in the moment. But if you're not having that, it's just I'm on it all the time. You don't get to see those wheels turning, and then therefore your wheel kind of feels stagnant. So that would really be one of those.
And you said that second period class?
The third period.
Third period
My
class.
high
Your
class.
high class.
Mhm. There's some students in there that would benefit moving to like my first class, for sure. There's some of them in there that they got a does not meet on just the multiple choice before anything else was graded, and it comes back to they're not really having that feedback loop, that academic conversation, because there's so many other just like zingers in there. They're not explaining it, which is my biggest problem with the high group is they would answer it paragraph.
Make
they
me a
answered it.
note for that. So that's your third period.
Mhm.
If there was to be a time that I could possibly pull them for 20 minutes to work with them, Mr. Scott is available, but I'm really trying to think, now that I'm supporting in another grade level, because I had already had you blocked off the pool from 1150 to 120, and I was speaking to Ms. Harrison regarding that. And so I told her it's very critical that we try to capture as many of those 11 students that could benefit. But if that is a better, if I could maybe find Mr. Scott to pull those kids out of that first period class for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and give them that intentionality, I would definitely do that. Because I need somebody that is gonna, and sometimes just building their confidence, being in a smaller group where they can feel free to express and they don't feel like everybody's listening to them is a win in itself.
There are some of the parents that have been in contact with me where they're asking, is there a way that on certain days that they could like sit in with my other class? And it's something that I need to bring up with my team because I'm all for it, for the purpose of their growth. So
What do you
that's
mean sit in with them?
so like moving that student that's in that really, really high class, but they're falling behind, to move them into my first period and just have them rotate with my first period for, these next few weeks, just in order for them to have that academic
How many
discourse.
students?
From that third period, 3.
How is that gonna mess up the ecosystem, if I may pull a science term out, of that third period class by those not being in there?
So that third period class has 21 students. And of those 21 students, their average is like 67%, 70%, minus like few here or there. But there's much benefit for those kids that don't really have any of those issues, not dyslexia, dysgraphia, any of those things, to go into have that academic struggle and be in my first class, where there is more